Hey everyone, it's Caitlin from Miller Flowers out here in Greenville, Ohio. We are a greenhouse and garden center. So today's video, I wanted to share with you what all is blooming out here at Miller Flowers on our property. So I'm going to be walking you through a lot of our home gardens, our gardens around our house, and what all is the early blooming perennials. So due to so much rain that we've been having and cloudy days, our plants and our flowers that are growing outside in the Ohio Midwest area is about 2 weeks behind their normal bloom time. So a lot of our tulips and early lilacs and creeping phlox and our trees are blooming now, which is the first week of May. Typically start blooming about mid to early April. So I'm going to show you what's blooming and what normally will start blooming again in about early spring. Creeping phlox with some few dandelions. The creeping phlox is starting to bloom now, and it is a perennial in our area, and it looks gorgeous going over rock borders or in the front of a flower bed. Creeping phlox tends to die out in parts, and so we'll actually pull that out and replace it periodically. Creeping phlox also comes in this blue color. It comes in a fuchsia pink, a light pink, and a white. And creeping phlox is such a gorgeous perennial for the landscape. Highly recommend picking up a couple to use in the front of your flower bed or over a rock border or wherever you want to put those at. Yes, it is a perennial in our area. Cherry tree. Yes, we do pick cherries off this tree in the summertime when they start producing. We actually got quite a bit that we were able to make cherry jam. So this is our cherry tree. The blooms are so gorgeous. Is not blooming, but it's starting to bud. You can see the buds are forming and the ants are on the peonies. This is a peony patch or peony. They were planted by the homeowners before us, and we suspect they're about 50 years old or so. And we just love to come out and cut their old-fashioned peony blooms, and they smell so good and they last a long time. And this patch here is starting to bloom here soon. We normally see it about Memorial Day, 1st of June. Our large, huge lilac bush. So this is about 30 years old. My parents actually dug up a start from their old lilac at their house before actually born, and they dug it up and they brought it with them to this house here in Greenville and planted it, and it's just gotten so huge over time. Some of it has died out and they've cut some of it back, so it's gotten a lot sparser, but it is an old-fashioned lilac, and it is so gorgeous and it smells so good. It's an old-fashioned lilac. I've been asked before, since we are flower farmers and we grow a lot of cuts that we use in our florist at the time, I was asked about when to harvest lilacs and bring them in, or how long they'll try to get lilacs to last longer indoors. And my recommendation would be to start harvesting your lilacs when they are like this right here, when they are not fully opened yet. So harvest those. You can also hammer the end of the lilacs, and they absorb the end of the stem, and they absorb water better. And so you can actually do that with your lilacs, and that would be a way of getting your lilacs to last long. Next thing that's blooming right now is red cherry trees. So this is another type of cherry tree, and it is a spectacular tree, and it does produce little cherries, and it's a beautiful statement color tree. Trees that line our drive. This is a really gorgeous lilac, deep plum, white lilac. It smells so good. Back at the huge lilacs that are lining our drive and getting so huge over time. Starting to bloom is the Palavin Lilac. This is a shorter, more dwarf lilac, but it is equally as gorgeous as the old-fashioned. The English country garden style. So she's actually lining the lane with lilacs. And it's just a beautiful hedge. It's creeping phlox. And if you can tell, there is certain little spots through here that used to be a swath, but they died out. So they'll just replace that with other creeping phlox over time. These gorgeous little anemones that are growing throughout the flower bed. They're just spreading, and they are a perennial as well. So most of everything that I'm showing you are perennials. So this is a forget-me-not. It's growing by seed, and my mom will actually send packets of forget-me-nots to friends that have lost a loved one. It's just something that they can remember their loved one by planting some forget-me-nots, and they're growing throughout the path. Forget-me-nots are easily confused with Brunera, and this is Brunera here. Brunera is a perennial as well, and that can be purchased as a plant in our greenhouse. But Brunera is a gorgeous perennial, and it grows super well in part sun to shade. So there's a tree that shades this area up here at the house, and Brunera just does really well in this area, and it is so gorgeous. The little light blue flowers. Tell the difference between Brunera and forget-me-not. Forget-me-not does not have the white in their leaves. They're smaller leaves, and the Brunera does. Shrimp on the Barbie is blooming. Yes, this is called shrimp on the Barbie, and it's called pulmonaria. And this is also a perennial in our area, and it is a gorgeous plant as well. Part sun to shade, does phenomenal under trees, and you can plant that with these beautiful ferns. Blooming, but a way of getting instant color into your flower beds in the early spring is planting heuchera, also commonly known as coral bells, on part sun shade to even full sun. Next up is Lenten Rose hellebore or helleborus. It's actually called Lenten Rose because it blooms in between Lent and Easter, but it's so late that it's still blooming now. I think it just started blooming around Easter time. Wondering if you can use hellebore or Lenten Rose in cuts? You can. There is farmer florists that use Lenten Rose in their arrangements and in their bridal bouquets. It only lasts about 2 days though in water, so it's a super quick flower. It's not very long lasting, but it does add something special to those special event bouquets. It has gotten huge over time. It's starting to take a small area of the flower bed. This is the viburnum. If you've never smelled viburnum, you need to. It smells so good, and they are absolutely gorgeous. Not least, this is a dandelion. They are currently in bloom everywhere right now, and probably even in your own home or your yard. They are in full bloom in our yard, and they're quite pests, but they have lots of benefits to them. You can actually eat their leaves. Make sure to wash them first, and you can add them to salads or even cook them, and they actually provide lots of vitamins and minerals. So it's actually very good for you to eat dandelions. There's something else that you'd like to come back in early spring that you can use off of. Try chives or allium. So this is chives here, and this plant has been here for a while. As you can tell, we've cut it because we've been using it in herb butter, but this is onions. This is onion flavoring from the same family, and you can use this as an herb in all your cooking. So definitely add this to your landscape as well. It blooms a little purple flower. It looks great, and it tastes great. Up to the greenhouse. I was going to show you a few more shrubs here at the greenhouse that is blooming as well. And again, they are blooming early because the greenhouse is warmer, and so they're blooming a lot earlier than they are out in the landscape. That's something that you'll be seeing here soon in May, and they'll be blooming for a while. And so the first thing is Weigela or Weigelia. It is a gorgeous perennial shrub as well. Wine and Roses is one of the varieties. Gorgeous plant with the dark foliage and rosy red pink fuchsia blooms. They also attract hummingbirds and butterflies. It also comes in a green foliage, and it turns more of a burnt orange foliage in the fall. But it produces a pink, fuchsia pink flower. Gorgeous Tracy spirea. Yes, that's its original color. It is a green with yellow orangey foliage and then dark purple flowers. And this entire plant will be full of pink flowers. That's a spirea. Next up is the perennial Isocarpus raspberry lemonade. Another gorgeous perennial shrub. Takes the sun really well. It has lime green foliage with beautiful creamy color flowers. Just color of Baptisia actually just started blooming fairly early, end of spring to early summer. This is such a gorgeous color of Baptisia that is blooming in the perennial section as well. Takes the full to part sun. Dianthus or Sweet William, it's another gorgeous perennial that will start blooming the end of spring to first of summer. It's also more of a cooler weather plant as well, so it is a very beautiful, gorgeous perennial. Gorgeous shrub that we got in this year is called Blood Good Acer. It is from the maple family, and it is such a gorgeous color of maple tree. And it even produces little seed pods as well. Isn't that a gorgeous tree? So that is a quick tour of the gardens around the house, and then out here at Miller Flowers, what's blooming early in the perennial section as well. Again, all of these plants that we looked at that are in the landscape or in the greenhouse today are all perennials in our area. So we are zone 5, and a perennial means that it will come back the following year. An annual is only a one-time plant that will only grow for one growing season. So that's something to keep in mind as you are shopping for perennials. What blooms early, what blooms mid-season, what blooms late season. And it actually, if you look on the tags of the plants that you are purchasing, or maybe you can even use Google, you can look up that plant and see when they bloom, and you can plant different plants for different seasons for bloom time. And so that is something that you can do. If you have questions on that, feel free to ask us, and we can help you plan out your landscape with perennials blooming at different times, and even adding in annuals as color all season long. So this is Caitlin from Miller Flowers here in Greenville, Ohio, and this is what's blooming out here. So stop out and see us, and have a great day and happy spring.